Hello world and welcome to a brand new mod where today we're going to be covering industrial foregoing for 1.20. Before we start, if you didn't know already, we actually have a Discord, link down in the description. Best way to know when things are live and well, when any of these tutorials go out. Now let's get into the mod. The first thing you're probably going to want to make, because this is going to be your guide to this mod in every aspect, and that is the industrial foregoings manual. Made very simply with a book, dirt and piece of redstone. This will tell you all the information you possibly require from all aspects of the mod. There is some sort of unlocking progress phase, but I'm in creative, so I have everything unlocked so I can see everything, but this will tell you in order of what you should really do. Now we're going to be basically covering the basics of industrial foregoing today, and then we're going to be covering this mod in a slightly different way to how I have previously. But anyway, to start off, the first thing you're going to need is a pity machine frame. The pity machine frame is going to be your basically heart of all your machines in the early game of this mod. This is made with a redstone block, some logs and some iron, so it's very cheap, but obviously we are going to be probably using a lot of these. The very first machine you're going to be making with this is going to be the fluid extractor. This is also made with a gold weighted pressure plates, and this is made with a piston also, and this is going to be basically a way of getting a resource out of logs, and that resource is going to be latex. Now from this point you can move on to just getting latex, but just to have a little bit of a buffer, it's a good idea to have something called the common black hole tank. Now from this point you can go straight into crafting, but it is always good to have a good buffer of this fluid we're going to be getting, so this is where we have the common black hole tank. There is also the common black hole unit which stores items, but the tank stores fluid. Now it can only have one type of fluid in this, and the common black hole can only hold up to 16,000 millibuckets, or 16 buckets in total. This is made with our pity machine frame and an iron gear. Iron gears are made very simply like so, and it's made with 4 buckets and some iron. Basically loads of iron and you get yourselves a tank. Now the last thing I'm going to show off is the fluid transporter right now. This is made with a piston, some lapis, ender pearl, redstone and the pity machine frame, and this is going to be a way of transporting fluids between blocks but only up to one place. So now let's get into how we actually get our first sort of item up and running. Here we have a oak log. It's actually a stripped oak log, and I'll tell you for why. But we can place regular logs on here, and you will be to begin with. Now by itself, the fluid extractor, this when pointing at this direction, this is the working side of this. When you place it down, it's going to place it away from you, so just keep that in mind. But when you place a log in front of it, it's going to start breaking down this log. Now this doesn't need power, but if you do supply it power, it's going to go a heck of a lot faster. But in the early game, you're obviously not going to have any power. So to begin with, this, as you can see, it's got a progress bar. It takes 5 seconds to do a craft. Now this is going to generate very, very small amounts of buckets. Now I've had this running for a long time and I've gained 2.5 buckets now, but by itself, this is probably generating 1 to 2 millibuckets every 5 seconds. So it's pretty slow. Now this is going to slowly degrade this log. After it's broken it to a specific point, it's going to turn it into a stripped oak log, as you saw there. And once it's degraded the stripped oak log, it's going to completely disappear. So that's when you're going to have to replace this oak log. Now what we have here is this does have an internal buffer of 1,000 millibuckets, but 1,000 millibuckets isn't going to be a lot, which is why I say you should probably have one of these, so then we can have 16 millibuckets. Now on the side here, this is where I've got my fluid transporter. Now it's something to note, there is not many ways of actually getting fluid inside of industrial foregoing. So if we type in fluid here, literally this is the only option to transport fluid. This is the only option, and it only does it up to 1 block, so it's not that good. Now that doesn't mean you cannot use other mods. You can use things such as thermal expansion or Ender IO, which is now going to be in this version, as well as mechanism and other things. So you can use that to transport fluids, but if you are using just industrial foregoing like we're going to be doing with the tutorial, this is your only option. Now these work very simply. All you have to do is simply shift right click these onto a side. It can be on any side, it doesn't matter which, and then they have basically an input and an output mode. When they're both have this little sort of, I don't know what you call it, button pointing out, that's both your extraction modes. So if I place this here, we can see we're now extracting from this tank and putting it into here, but this doesn't actually accept it. So we would have to go the other way. Now what you can do is, as you can see, there's 2 different parts that can highlight. It's very subtle on these items. If you shift right click, that actually takes the item off if you're on the back, but if you just hold regular right click, it will bring up this screen, the transporter interface. This is going to essentially be your filter point. So if you're using a fluid machine that has multiple fluids in it, you can filter which type of fluids you want to take out. Now this works in blacklist and whitelist mode, and then you also have a regulator mode. Regulator mode means that you say you only want to, for whatever reason, if you have a tank with 1,000 millibuckets of water in, but you only ever want to take out 100 millibuckets at a time, you could then put 100 millibuckets worth of water into here. I don't know if it actually works that low. Okay, it may only work in full buckets, but yeah, if you only wanted to take 1 bucket worth, then that would work. This also has the ability to give you add-ons. Add-ons are basically upgrades for this mod, but at this point we're not going to be showing add-ons today. But there are many different types of add-ons, and some of them can go inside of this transporter. If you were to get an add-on, we will quickly just demonstrate it. If we were to get an add-on such as this speed upgrade, all you would have to do is simply right-click on it, and then it would say it's in the top corner. There's not really a good way of extracting it. I mean, you can just hold shift right click to take it off, but then it just pops the whole thing off, so you'd have to replace it. Now that's how we get ourselves a load of latex, but what do we do with this latex? Well, we're going to have to actually process it. This, we need the latex processing unit. Now this needs to have at least a bucket of latex to start off with. This is where it's going to be very tedious. I highly recommend you get loads of these extractors, because the cool thing about this as well is that you can place multiple extractors on the exact same log. So you can have 4 extractors going on 1 log at a time, saving you a handful of resources, but also speeding up the process. Also, to make the unit, we're also going to need some redstone, water bucket, and a furnace. But the interesting thing about this is the latex processing unit is going to need power. So we're going to need our first generator, which is going to be the pitiful generator. Made of some iron bars and some gold. This is going to be basically your coal burning generator. Inside of here, all you have to do is simply place coal, and then it will do a process. 1 coal block lasts for 800 seconds, and that will turn it into power. The internal buffer of the pitiful generator is 100,000 FE or RF. As well as that, this does have an input slot. It can input from all sides, and you simply can just choose the direction about it. And while we're here, we should probably go over a little bit more about the inputting and outputting of different resources on different machines. As you can see on the pitiful generator, we have here the fuel input, which is this slot, and there's only 1 square. Some of these machines later on, they may actually have multiple squares, and they can do different things. But for now, we have the full input, and this basically shows our way of actually being able to put items into here. So what we could actually have is a chest just next door, like so, and we could actually take all of this and put this in here. And what we could actually say is inside, every side here accepts items. We can also disable them with a right click, but what we can also do is say push or pull. Pull is going to be pulling from an inventory, like so. So this is now going to pull from this chest directly, which is very nice. But as well as that, you can also do push. Push is actually going to send it out of this and into the chest. And you can do this for both items, fluids, and other things as well. So if we do go over to the latex extractor, you do not have to have these fluid transporters. You could place this right here, and then on the latex transporter, if you face the front of it, you could say here we would like to have the right side be push, or sorry, the left side be push, and on this one we would like to have the right side be push. And now both of these is going to actually push it into this at the same time. So you could do this with just 2 chests, or you could have it very simply like this as well, which is even better. And this is with the fluid transporter. You could have these on all these sides, and then you could have these here as well, because these actually work at a 90-degree angle. So if we turn this all off like this, we could have all of them going straight up into the center. There's multiple ways to do it. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but it's completely up to you. But anyway, this is most likely going to be your first sort of setup, most likely. You would have the pitiful generator in the center to actually power your latex generator, but then you'd also want to power your fluid extractor, because this is obviously going to give you a lot more latex in the long run. So that's the next thing you can pretty much do for this here as well. You could have 2 of these on either side as well, and that would power 2 at a time. So that would speed things up even further. We're making lots of progress. Besides that, we've just got 2 buffers here to basically turn 90-degree angles, because as we know, the fluid transporters cannot transport more than a block. So this won't reach over there, unfortunately. But anyway, inside of here, we have got ourselves some latex being built up. And this is where we see our other buttons. We've got latex here, which we can input from all sides. Then we have water. Now, at the moment, we do not actually have a way of pumping anything at this stage in the game. So you will have to get water buckets, and you can simply just left click them straight into here. It's very, very nice. You can just place them in. It's a bit tedious, but it is something you're going to have to do to begin with. What you might be able to do is do this as well. You can place this in like this. So you can actually hopper in a load of water buckets, but it's still pretty manual. Obviously, you'll have to get all the water buckets made. As well as that, if there's any resources you would like to take out of here, you can place an empty bucket in here. As you can see, it's taking out the latex. I believe if all the latex was empty, then it would take out water. Now the other cooler thing about this is that obviously we've got our power, this can have add-ons, but you can actually set this with a redstone signal. At the moment it's set to ignored, which means it's always going to work, but you can have run with no redstone signal, which is pretty much the same thing. But if you wanted to turn it off, you would give it power, run with redstone, and then run on a pulse. So only if you pulse it, it'll do 1 tick, or if you give it a redstone signal, it will only craft once, and you would have to turn it off and on again to make it run again. Ignored is what most people are going to be using. Anyway, this gives us tiny dry rubber. Now, tiny dry rubber is going to be how we actually get our latex. So first we're going to have to get 9 of these and turn it into a piece of dry rubber, and then we actually smelt our dry rubber in any sort of furnace, which is going to give us plastic. And plastic is going to be a very important resource, as it's pretty much used for every single machine inside of this mod. Now, in order to upgrade this process once again, now that we actually have ourselves some plastic, we're going to want a way of automatically generating water, as you see here. This is where we're going to get our first machine with plastic, and that is going to be the water condenser. Made with 2 pistons, 2 iron gears, some plastic we've just created, and the pity machine. This is going to be basically our passive way of getting water. Now, this does not require power, but if you do give it power, it will be a bit faster. This needs to have basically 2 source blocks right next to it for it to start passively generating water. I've actually got under here one on the very base there, as well as one on the back side, which you can't see here, so give this the max amount of fluid here. Now, I'm using ourselves a fluid transporter to put it into a tank to give ourselves a little bit of a buffer, but as we know, we can actually use this, and we can just say push to the top, and we could push this directly into something like the latex processor. But I'm just doing it this way, so we have a bit of a buffer. Then we have our latex here, which we have now powered, and we obviously could have this in many different ways. We could have more latex, but now this is a completely passive way of generating our latex. Now, the final machine we're going to be needing is the Dissolution Chamber. The Dissolution Chamber is going to be our way of making both components and other machines later on in this mod. This is going to require 4 diamonds for a diamond gear. This is probably, you guessed it, the same way as an iron gear is a diamond gear. You also get gold gears as well, as you see here, and they're just made with simply gold. So this is just made with some diamonds, gold, and some iron, and this is going to give us a Dissolution Chamber. And the Dissolution Chamber is a little bit of a finicky thing. It's a bit of a daunting GUI, but trust me, you will get used to it. It has many parts to it. The center is going to be your fluid, so this is going to be your fluid input here. You can do whatever you like. You can have multiple different fluids in here, but they are very specific types. One is going to be latex. Latex is going to be the main thing you're going to use in the center here, but you can use other things such as ether gas or pink slime, and that is going to be made later on in the higher tiers. But for now, just worry about getting latex in here, and ideally you want this filled all the time. So you could have this slapped straight on top of your latex processor after it's been processed, never mind. And then you'll be able to make your different resources. Now, the first thing you're probably going to want to make is actually your upgrade to the pity machine. This is made inside the Dissolution Chamber, and this gives you the simple machine frame. As you can see, this is made with some nether bricks, so you will have to venture to nether to progress in this mod, but besides that, you just need all these items you see on screen. Now, this is where the annoying thing goes. You are going to want, eventually, probably a heckin' load of these simple machine frames, as you see here. Now, the Dissolution Chamber is not very easy to automate. You have to do it in very specific ways. Now, this is the craft to make the Dissolution Chamber, and the very nice thing about it is that it is shapeless. You don't have to put these in a specific order, despite the fact that in the GUI here, or JEI here, it does say a specific recipe, but it's shapeless. You can put these in any way. Now, I'm going to quickly get rid of all of these, and you can see they're filling up. That's because I'm using this system over here. But I'm going to build this from the ground up. When you first get the machine, it's going to look like this. It's going to be completely empty. At the moment, I am using this passive way of generating latex. All I have to do is place a log here, and it will just start doing its thing. So I've got 4 latex fluid extractors going into all these different tanks, and then all 4 of these are going into this pity black hole. So we have a buffer, as you see here. Now, I'm using a slightly bigger one here. This has 64 blocks. The pity is a little bit bigger than the common. The pity black hole can still be made in the early tier, but you do need latex here. So this is just a quick thing I thought I'd show off. It does require some ender eyes, but again, you need the nether, but this is the point where you're going to need the nether anyway. So yeah, this pity black hole is basically an upgrade to the common black hole, and it just gives you 64 buckets instead of 16. So I'm just using these, so I have a massive buffer of latex, and that's going to our Dissolution Chamber. But anyway, inside of here, we can simply place in our items as you see, like so. Now, as I say, it's completely shapeless, so you can do this. And then if we actually set this to ignore, it will then start working, as you see here. Now this does take a lot of power. It says in the GUI somewhere, there you go, it takes 18,000 FE or RF in actually order to make one of these, so it does need a lot of power. One pitiful generator is not going to generate enough, so you will need a better power generation, but we'll cover that later. And this will give us our simple machine. Now, if you are wanting to automate this, it's not as simple as you think. Now, most people, they are probably going to use something like Mechanism to basically pipe in what we want. I'm going to take these away for right now. Or they would simply do this. They would take our input and they would say, from the right side, I would like to pull in items here, which is great, something you absolutely can do. Let's put these items in here, and there you go. It starts pumping in items, and uh-oh, it's just doing all of it in the right place. Well, that's not what we want. That's not what we want. How about this then? We use this locking feature. I'll build this in the right way just for argument's sake. That's actually the wrong way. But there you go. We've now locked the inputs. When this is crafted, the inputs are going to stay in the right place, which is perfect for us. But I'm going to take this away for right now, and as you can see, they're locked up. We can't actually place these in now. These have to be manually inserted. So you're like, okay, let's put this in the chest then. It's not working. Why isn't it working? This is the very annoying thing about the Dissolution Chamber. It does work, but you have to have only one item. It only does one item at a time. And we know that we need 2 of these nether bricks and 2 of these ingots, but if I put 2 in here, it doesn't actually recognize it. If they're both separate, it will do one than the other. So this is the annoying thing. You either need to have a way of putting things in here without stacking, which is very hard, because if you have a hopper, it will obviously put them all in one stack, so you can't do that. And also there are other ways of actually putting things into here, but it's just a little bit confusing. The only way I've been able to find out how to do this using purely industrial foregoing is with these item transporters. Now, item transporters, they're made very similarly to the fluid transporters, as you can see, and they work everything in the exact same way. We just have it like this, and this is now going to let it through. Inside as well, we have our blacklist, whitelist, and our regulation mode. Now, the regulation mode works a little bit better than the fluid, because we can do this as 64 blocks or 63 blocks, or we can have this as 1 block, and so on and so forth. So if we have this all as 1, and we set all of these to be 1, we want this on whitelist, then it will only actually take 1 at a time, which is perfect. So it takes a little bit of setting up, but it is the best way, because then you can just simply dump all of this in here, and it will only ever take 1 at a time. So it'll fill all these up, take 1 at a time, and it will be perfect. So now this is fully automated with the locking system. Besides that, I've got the output on push, so that it goes straight up to our simple machines. Now, you can use a hopper directly into this. A hopper will work, but it's going to be a similar situation. If you did actually have all our hoppered bits here, like so, and place this here, obviously we've got 5 slots, which is great. But what happens is that we are obviously using 2 of these ingots, 2 of the plastic, and 2 of the nether brick. So you'd run out of those first before the others. So you would have to have a chest that constantly topped these up. And if you miss topping these up, then eventually you'll have these blocked up, and you might have 2 iron in here, or you might have run out of gold, and then you've got 2 iron in here, you know? So then you would have to go and reset this. So this is why I think the best way is literally just using these item transporters. It's the easiest and best. There are other modes of transport inside of this. In industrial foregoing, there is the conveyor belt you may have seen. Now, I've tried this as well. You can use the conveyor belt, but it's a similar situation. You only want 1 item on your conveyor belt at a time, otherwise it will not actually input. So it's all very, very finicky, but it does work. But now, besides that, what can we do with this Dissolution Chamber? Well, you can make lenses, you can make other types of ingots, you can make tools, you can make add-ons, you can make your other frames, many, many different things you can do. However, today we're not going to be covering any more of that, as we are basically on the basics. So from this point on now, guys, the progression is going to be a little bit different. As you can see, we have got 4 different sections here. These are going to be your progressions through the mod. We already know how to make ourselves the pity frame. These are going to be your tier 1s. We now know how to make the simple machine frames, which is your tier 2s. But then there is the advanced, and there is the supreme machine frames. These are made very simply, which we will cover during this mod. There are very specific things you must do in order to progress in this. But besides that, industrial foregoing is not really a mod about progression. It's all about farming. There is no really way of quote unquote completing this. It's completely based on what you want to do. So the way I'm going to be tackling this mod is going to be a little bit different to other mods. These are going to be split into different categories because these are going to be requiring different farms at different tiers. And sometimes you're going to want later tiers to make earlier tiers a little bit better. So we're going to put this down into both mobs, animals, and ore resources, and then maybe power generation as well. This way we're going to be able to cover all blocks across all tiers instead of me doing all of tier 1, all of tier 2, all of tier 3, and then all of tier 4, because there are going to be some things you're going to want to integrate maybe from tier 3 into tier 1, because you may generate items in tier 1 that you have no use for until tier 3, and I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to be dropping a link to the community tab in the description down below, so you guys can vote what you would actually like me to cover first, whether that is going to be animals or regeneration or power and so on and so forth. So you guys pick, and then we're just going to basically be jumping through between the tiers. So this isn't going to be a linear mod, unfortunately, but this is how it's going to work. But very quickly, for those guys who would like to skip ahead, I am going to show you how to make these machine blocks so we don't cover them in every single episode. Otherwise that will get a little bit tedious. So we know how to make the pity machine frame, which is basically just crafting it. The simple machine grain we've just covered in the Dissolution Chamber and how to automate it, but then we have the advanced machine frame. This is made with mostly vanilla items. As you can see, we need netherite scrap and some diamonds, but the only thing we need here is pink slime. Now, pink slime is made in the mob slaughter factory, and this is going to be your way of automatically killing mobs. So you are going to need a mob farm, kill them with the mob slaughter factory to get this pink slime. That's all you need to do. We are going to cover it in more detail later on, but I'm sure some of you are going to be able to figure it out if you just want to push on with this mod. Then with the advanced, we can make the supreme. The supreme is going to need the TVS tier, and this is going to need ether gas and some more netherites. The ether gas is made in a handful of different ways. You can do it with a fluid laser drill or laser drill, but I believe as well you can also do this with a specific machine and on the wither boss. So that is going to be our final tier as well. So that's how you make all the machine frames. That's how you quickly boost into the final tier. You can get into the final tier relatively quickly, to be honest. So that's why we're not really going about progression, we're going about farms in this one. But for now, guys, that is your basics into industrial foregoing. I hope you did enjoy, and I hope this helped you out, and I hope you understand the way we're going to be doing this mod. So there will be a playlist as well for this mod, so go check out and jump around between which farms you are going to be needing. But if this video helps you out in any way, shape or form, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out, and ring the bell button to stay notified when these videos go live. And if you have not already, guys, as I said in the beginning, join the Discord. It's the best way to know when these videos go live, as there's always a go live message from when I am streaming, as well as when new videos go live as well. Also, we're a wonderful community in case you have any questions you wish to ask. But guys, thank you so much for joining me today, and until next time, take care.